Once, as if whispering through the walls of time, Rumi left a message that has traveled centuries to reach you. The breeze of dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. But what are these secrets? And why must they be heard in silence before the world awakens? Because there are parts of you, deep, forgotten parts, that can only whisper when the world finally stops talking. There is a presence within you, a silent presence, invisible to the eyes, yet as real as the air you are breathing right now. It lives beneath your name, far beyond the roles you play, deeper than the habits that bind you. It is a being that waits, and waits, patiently, endlessly, for the moment you finally turn inward. But I'm not talking about the you who scrolls on the screen, who performs, or who automatically responds to stimuli. I'm talking about the you who dreams, who feels, who remembers. The you who existed before your first memory, and who, in a way your mind may not yet understand, will remain here after your last breath. This self is not found in the rush of life. It is not recognized in noise, and it will never be applauded by the crowd. It is born in solitude. And that is why, in the next few minutes, I want to invite you to walk with me, alongside Rumi, through the sacred grounds of the soul. Together, we will cross the threshold of silence and enter that space where truth begins to breathe for the very first time. We will speak about the forgotten power of being alone, not as an escape, but as a return. A return to who you are beneath all stories and layers. We will explore what it means to face the void, to look yourself squarely in the eyes, and to dissolve once and for all the illusion that you were ever disconnected from love. Yes, this is the true spiritual path, the very one Rumi walked. This is the journey back home, back within yourself. We fear solitude, and it's not because we hate silence. Quite the opposite. Deep down, we fear it because it is precisely in silence that the masks begin to fall. In the presence of others, we learn to shape ourselves, to adjust every gesture and word to fit in, to please, to be accepted. Here, together, we will uncover the silence, awaken presence, and live the kind of love that transforms. Leave your comment below. Share what this video awakened in you. Your voice is part of this growing community of consciousness and light. I want to read every experience, every insight, every question. Let's walk together on this journey of expansion and self-discovery. So, click subscribe, hit the notification bell, so you don't miss any of our next encounters. And I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue this beautiful journey toward the higher self. Thank you for being here. There's nothing left to chase, no teaching to cling to, no ritual to complete, only this breath, only this moment, only the silent knowing that everything sacred is already here. This is the truth Rumi carried in every verse. The seeker is not separate from the source, that the longing itself is already a sign that the beloved is near, and that, beyond the opposites of right and wrong, good and bad, there is a field of stillness, of union, of truth. And his words, I'll meet you there. If you felt the depth of this inner journey, subscribe now to the Higher Self channel to keep exploring this true connection with yourself and with the universe, bringing this love back into the world, letting your inner journey become a life lived outward, turning the presence you found into your way of being. And so we close this circle, but not with an end, with a return. Remembering a silent devotion to live not from the mind, but from the heart. Now we take the next step forward into reflection, into stillness, into the mystery of the final breath. Now we return not to where we started, but to where we have always been. Only now, with open eyes, you have walked through solitude, stood before the void, awakened to the power of presence, and remembered the love that cannot be named. But this was never a lesson. It was a remembrance, a slow peeling away of what you are not until what you are could begin to shine again. It expands, it flows outward, it longs to be shared, expressed, embodied. Divine love is not content to remain hidden in meditation rooms and sacred texts. It wants to live in your words, in your hands, in your gaze. It wants to be given to the world, not through grand gestures, but through presence, through patience, through listening, through showing up again and again with an open heart, even when it hurts. And so, here we are, not at an end, but at a beginning, the beginning of living love. The beginning of walking through the world as a flame that does not burn, but warms. As a silence that does not isolate, but heals. As a presence that tells everyone you meet, you are not alone, you are not broken, you are love, you are love. And from here, the only step left is integration. Life begins to dance with you. Not just the joyful parts, but all of it. Sadness becomes sacred. Anger turns into energy. Loneliness transforms into intimacy. You begin to see the beloved in everything, in the wind, touching your face, in the stranger, offering a smile, in the pain that stubbornly stays. You realize nothing was ever separate, that even your suffering was a form of love, love wearing the mask of pain, just to bring you back to yourself. Rumi saw the face of the beloved in all things because he had become nothing. He had emptied himself so completely that only love remained. And this is the invitation, not to become someone bigger, but to become no one. To be so present, so surrendered, that you become transparent to the light. You no longer need to prove. You no longer need to defend. You no longer need to compare. You exist as an offering, and that offering is love. But even now, in the depths of divine remembrance, the journey does not end. Because love, once awakened, does not settle. Maybe you won't feel it all at once. It may come as a flicker, a moment of causeless peace, a sudden stillness in the middle of chaos, an unexpected tear, a sigh that feels deeper than the body. And in that instant, you'll know love is here, not outside, not in words or gestures, but as presence, as truth, as something so intimate it can't be named, only felt, only surrendered to. And the more you surrender, the more it grows, not as an experience, but as a state of being. You begin to move through the world differently. Not grasping, not defending, but radiating. No longer needing others to complete you, because you've remembered your own wholeness, not seeking to be loved, because you've become love itself. And in that becoming, life transforms, not because the world changes, but because you no longer resist it, you no longer divide it. You no longer demand that it gives you what you already carry inside. You become a vessel for the beloved, a mirror in which others can see their own light. reflected back. This is not theory. It is the living, breathing truth of your soul. And once it awakens, it will never let you forget, even when you fall asleep again, even when you doubt, even when you feel lost. The beloved will call you back through dreams, through pain, through beauty, through silence. And each time it will ask the same question. Will you love again? Will you open again? And if you say yes, something miraculous happens. Something has always been there, waiting, watching, holding, loving. This is the beloved. And now we turn towards him. Now we open the final door. Now we begin to remember divine love. We are not searching for love. What we're truly searching for is the place within us where the beloved already resides, not above, not beyond, but within. And to touch that place, we need to stop running. We need to stop chasing. We need to turn inward, not with force, but with reverence. It all begins in the heart, not the physical heart, but the energetic center of your being, the place where pain and gratitude intertwine, the place where you've stored every wound, every hope. To find the beloved, you must enter that temple with bare feet and open hands. You must bow before your own vulnerability. You must forgive yourself, not as a moral act, but as a spiritual necessity, because every wall you've built around your heart to protect yourself also kept love out. And the beloved does not force. He waits for you to open. He waits for you to soften. He waits for you to cry, if that's what it takes, because it's only in the breaking that we become whole. It doesn't arrive with thunder or lightning. It comes the moment you stop searching for it. It appears. When the seeker dissolves and only presence remains. It's not found by grasping, but by surrendering. And you'll know, not because it tells you its name, but because it feels like home, like a return, a remembering, a soft, wordless yes. And so the inner journey that began in solitude, that passed through the fire of emptiness, that opened the door to presence, now begins to bloom into love. Not as a concept, not as a goal, but as a silent realization that you were never alone, that behind the silence, beneath the presence, within the breath. It's not an idea, not a philosophy. It's a felt sensation, a presence within presence. And it feels like love, not romantic love. That comes and goes, not conditional love that demands or withholds, but a love that simply is. Rumi called it the beloved. And he saw it in everything, in sunlight streaming through leaves, in pain, in a mother's voice, in the tears of longing that fall silently at night. The beloved was never separate from life. It was life itself, unveiled. This love is not something you earn. It's something you discover. You begin to realize that your emotions are not obstacles, but messengers, that your discomfort is not a sign of failure, but an invitation to come home. Every trigger becomes a doorway. Every wound, a window. And this is where the real journey happens. Not in moments of peace, but in moments of resistance. Can you stay present when you're angry, when you're afraid, when you're alone? Can you sit with the ache in your chest without reaching for a distraction? Can You listen to your thoughts without believing every single one. This is the fire of presence, and it refines you. Slowly, lovingly, you burn, not into ashes, but into truth, into clarity, into authenticity. Until what remains is no longer the image of who you thought you were, but the living truth of who you are. And here, you begin to notice something even deeper. As you sit in presence, as you open to what is, there's a warmth, a subtle vibration beneath the silence, a current moving through all things. And you begin to walk, not with plans, but with presence. You begin to live, not as a reaction, but as a response. But this journey is not free from challenges. Presence reveals everything, especially the parts of you you've hidden. The inner journey is not always a path of light. It will take you through sadness, through anger, through envy, through emptiness. But presence welcomes all of it. It doesn't reject, it doesn't fix, it simply sees, and by being seen, pain begins to transform. Not by force, but through recognition. He wasn't trying to escape the world. He spun deeper and deeper into it until the boundaries between inner and outer, between self and other, dissolved like morning mist under the sun. And that's what presence does. It dissolves imaginary boundaries. You no longer see yourself as separate from what you observe. You're not in the world. You are of the world. The tree is not out there, and you. In here, there is only experience unfolding. And in that unfolding, a kind of earned ecstasy begins to emerge. This presence doesn't demand rituals. It doesn't need dogmas. It asks for only one thing: your attention. Not the narrow attention of control or analysis, but the soft, loving attention. A kind of attention you would offer to a child learning to walk gentle, patient, without expectation. When you give your life that kind of attention, it begins to speak, not in words, but in feelings, in signs, in subtle movements of intuition. The universe stops feeling like a machine and starts becoming a mirror, reflecting not your desires, but your essence. It's turning your gaze inward, not to think more, but to see with greater clarity. To recognize that beneath every thought, every emotion, every role you play, there is something that does not move, something that does not change. That something is not a thing. It's the silent observer, the nameless I am, the space in which all things arise and fall away. And once you become aware of that space, your whole life becomes a meditation. Washing dishes becomes a sacred act. Speaking becomes an expression of presence. Silence becomes a companion. Rumi danced at the edge of this awareness, not as a concept, but as a lived reality. His whirling dance was not a performance. It was surrender, a dissolution of self into the now. Rumi described it with devastating simplicity. And you, when will you begin this long journey into yourself? These words, they're not a challenge. They're an invitation. The journey isn't about going somewhere new. It's about returning to where you've always been, but with new eyes. And what those eyes begin to see is not mystical or strange. It's deeply human. You start to notice how many times a day you betray your own truth, how often you abandon the present moment to revisit the past or try to control the future. you begin to see how quickly fear arises, how easily joy goes unnoticed, how deeply you long to be seen, even by yourself. But presence is not just noticing what's around you. It's becoming aware of who is aware. And now, from this silence, from this sacred emptiness, we take our next step, not back into the world of distraction, but forward toward the light, without fanfare or revelation. You simply become aware that this was always here waiting. And in that moment of awareness, something deep transforms. The world doesn't change, but the way you see it does. Your breath slows, not because someone told you to meditate, but because your body finally remembers that it is safe. Your eyes begin to notice the light resting on ordinary things. A leaf, a hand, a glass of water. Time no longer feels like something to conquer. You are here, and being here is enough. This is the beginning of the inner journey, not the dramatic ascent toward enlightenment, as it's often portrayed, but the subtle, quiet movement toward total intimacy with life. And what it reveals is a mystery beyond thought, beyond language. You can't talk about it. You can only become it. And when you become it, when you emerge from that sacred nameless darkness, without a map, without an identity, you do not return as who you were. You return as pure consciousness. So breathe. Let what was die. Let what was false be buried. Feel the weight of silence, not as a burden, but as a blessing. Let the stillness fill you, not to numb you, but to open you. Let it open the space where the next truth can emerge. And when it does, you won't need to understand it. You will feel it. In your breath, in your heart, in your feet touching the ground. You will feel that something has shifted, not because something new was added, but because something false has fallen away. Not as an idea, but as a living, breathing experience. You wake up, you open your eyes, not outward, but inward, and what you see is not form, not shape. Now you see presence. But before we speak of presence, we must honor this place where we now stand. We must give thanks for the undoing, for the terrifying silence that bid farewell to all our false selves, because without it, we would never have remembered who we truly are. The void does not destroy. It reveals. And for the first time, you begin to feel what has always been there, an unchanging, unshakable, timeless awareness, untouched by story or time. This awareness is not personal. It doesn't belong to you. It is not yours. It is you. And once you touch that silence, once you are held by it, you know something that can never be forgotten, that everything you've ever been searching for was never outside of you. It was buried beneath the noise you clung to out of fear. But the void is not a place to live forever. It is a crossing, a doorway, a sacred portal. Every seeker must pass through. And what lies beyond it is no longer silence, but presence, life, real life. Not the life of compulsions and roles, but the life that flows through all things with clarity and grace. The void clears the field. It breaks the old shell. And from that breaking, something new begins to awaken. But to become that presence, everything else must die. The void is not a place of punishment. It's a womb, a sacred chamber where all things are undone and remade. But it is not gentle. It offers no comforts. No consolations. It demands your total surrender. Not as a test, but as a passage. You cannot carry your name through the void. You cannot bring your beliefs, your trophies, or your wounds. You must walk naked into that darkness, stripped of past, future, and identity. And yet, what you find there is not absence, but essence. Not emptiness, but wholeness. The void is not the end of you. It's the end of who you are not. There is a silence that heals not by speaking, but by holding. It welcomes all your contradictions. It holds your shame and your beauty, your strength and your sadness, your longing and your fear. It does not judge. It simply absorbs and reflects back, not your image, but your being. Rumi did not fear the void. He lived in it, danced within it. He once whispered, "Why are you so afraid of silence? Silence is the root of everything. If you dive into your own emptiness, 100 voices will thunder, the messages you've always longed to hear." And he was right. But those messages do not come immediately. First comes the trembling, the disorientation, the loss of every point of reference. You start to realize how much of your life was built on noise, not just the external noise, but the internal one. Stories, fears, ambitions, identities. All of it begins to fade away. Here, you are no longer the child seeking approval, the worker chasing success, or the lover longing for completeness. You are simply present. Now, we take the next step. We face the void. We embrace the nothingness. We confront the emptiness. There comes a moment in the seeker's journey that cannot be taught, only lived. This moment is not illuminated by insights, nor softened by love. The void is vast, cold, and silent. It doesn't arrive as a reward for your spiritual efforts. It comes as a natural unfolding, just as night follows the setting sun. This is the void. Not a metaphor, not a crisis, but a living encounter with raw, boundless silence, the kind that rests beneath all things. After letting go of distractions, after shedding your masks in solitude, something begins to press against the edges of your awareness. A stillness, too vast to comprehend. A space, staring back at you. You feel it in your bones. This is not the comfortable kind of silence. It's the silence that dissolves identities. And it's terrifying, because everything you thought you were begins to fall apart. The mind panics. The ego resists. It wants to label. It wants to cling. It wants to run. But in the void, there is nowhere to run. There is only the invitation to stay. To surrender. To dissolve. And if you can stay through this dismantling, if you can resist the urge to run when your inner world starts to tremble, then you will discover something extraordinary beneath the ruins. A silence that is not empty, but infinite. A space that is not hollow, but sacred. A presence vast, ancient, and alive. This is the threshold of the void. It is not something you find, but something you fall into. And here words fail. Here intellect surrenders, because this is no longer the realm of the self you thought you were. This is the beginning of the great dissolution. The moment you stop seeking answers and instead begin to dissolve into the very question itself. Solitude prepares you for this. Clears the noise. Strips away the masks, and it takes you to the edge of your own being. And at this edge, there is nothing left to hold on to. No belief, no name, no identity, only the vast, unnameable mystery we call the void. And so, as we move forward on this journey, we must ask ourselves, can we stand still before this abyss? Can we let go of the need to define, control, and understand? Can we trust that within the silence, something greater awaits us? A fullness of insight, clarity, and communion. It is the place where God speaks, not in thunder, but in stillness. It is the moment when you realize that your deepest wisdom has always been within you, buried beneath the noise that, for so long, you mistook for life. In this sacred silence, you begin to hear your soul, not as a voice, but as a knowing, a presence that does not need to explain itself. It simply is. And for the first time, you feel that being is enough. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to prove anything. You are allowed to simply exist, and this existence is sacred. But solitude is not always gentle. When you dive deeper, you will find shadows. You will confront memories you buried, emotions you numbed, and desires you denied. It is at this moment that many give up. They say, I am too broken. I can't handle this. I don't want to go on. Feel all of it, but know that these are the pains of growth, the process of returning to yourself. Healing is not always light. Sometimes it is a deep, necessary darkness. An accounting, a dismantling of all that is false. So that what is real can emerge. This consciousness is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand your attention. It simply waits for your surrender. And when you finally stop fighting, when you no longer resist your own company, it appears, silent, expansive, like a gentle dawn lighting the waters of an ancient sea. There's a reason why every mystic, at some point in their journey, walked alone into the desert, or into the forest, or deep inside a cave. They were not running from the world. They were not trying to hide. They were, in fact, peeling away illusions, tearing the veils that separated them from their own inner truth, not to become saints, but to finally become real. Solitude is not an absence. It is a fullness. And what's left is raw, is real, and deeply human. And it's precisely in that rawness that you realize you are no longer fragmented. You are whole. The purpose of solitude was never to isolate you from life. The true purpose is to reconnect you with it. Because how can you truly find another if you have never found yourself? How can you love someone honestly if you never had the courage to face the parts of yourself you've rejected for so long? In solitude, you begin to integrate all that you once separated. You begin to forgive what you once thought unforgivable. You finally begin to remember. You are not your wounds. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are the one who sees it all. You are the witness, the eternal consciousness that was here before the pain, and that will remain here after the healing. There, in that intimate and raw space, there's no one left to impress. No one left to lie to. No audience left to perform for. It's precisely in that deep solitude, on that ground where all the characters fall away, that the true self begins. To awaken. Not the self built from reactions, nor the self shaped by memories and wounds, collected over time, but the unchanging presence, the one that has always been beneath it all. Silent, constant, unshakable. At first, it's uncomfortable. The silence can feel deafening. The stillness, unbearable. We're so used to distracting ourselves, to running from pain, from truth, to avoiding the vast unknown that is our own heart. If you stay, if you have the courage to remain seated, even if it's in the midst of the fire of your own restlessness, something begins to shift. The racing thoughts finally start to slow down. The emotional armor you've worn for years begins to loosen. The stories you told yourself about who you are, about what you lack, about what others did to you, those stories, little by little, begin to dissolve. We learn what to say to not bother, how to smile to belong, how to move so as not to be rejected. But in solitude, there is no audience, no applause, no script. There is only the echo of your own breath, the slow and almost hypnotic rhythm of your thoughts unfolding, reeling themselves, showing who they really are. There is only the unmistakable weight of your own presence, pressing and pushing you inward. And it is right there, in that bare space, in that silent chamber, that the true journey begins. Rumi knew this. He never romanticized solitude. He never painted with soft colors what is often harsh and uncomfortable, but he honored it as a sacred space, an invisible altar, a place of encounter with what is real. He saw solitude not as a flight from life, but as a deep dive into it. That is exactly what we are about to do now. He once wrote, "A little time alone in your room will be more valuable than anything they can ever give you." These words are not just poetry. They are prophecy, because the soul does not awaken in crowds. It awakens in solitude. At the exact moment the world finally stops talking. That is when your essence begins, for the very first time, to whisper. In solitude, you begin to notice things you may never have had the time or courage to face head-on throughout your life. You start to see the silent pain behind your smile. You become aware of the thoughts that tirelessly circle, like birds trapped inside an invisible cage. The parts of you that never found a language finally begin to move.
Now, as we reach the end of this revealing expedition, I want to express my deepest gratitude to you for staying with us until the end. Your dedication and curiosity are the fuel that drives us to explore, demystify, and share these intriguing stories. I want to share something special with you. As a fan of the Map of Higher Self channel, you are about to embark on a unique journey of self-discovery and mental formation. I present to you the Map of Higher Self, a revolutionary ebook that will redefine your mental reality. As the creator of this content and leader of the Map of Higher Self channel, I'm sharing my deepest experiences and valuable lessons with you. Each chapter of this ebook is a reflection of my journey, filled with practical lessons I've lived and transformed into wisdom. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your life. Click the link in the pinned comment and start your journey towards self-knowledge and positivity today. Imagine yourself for a moment as one of the ancient explorers who ventured into unknown territories, guided only by the flame of curiosity and the thirst for knowledge. Every piece of information, every symbol deciphered, is like a map leading us deeper into the labyrinth of the unknown. And just like those explorers, you too are now a little closer to the truth, carrying with you a new understanding of the forces that shape our world. Your presence here is not just a personal achievement, but a valuable contribution to a vibrant community of curious and knowledge-seeking individuals. Every view, every comment, every like is a step we take together toward a deeper and collective understanding. You are not just a spectator, you are a partner in this journey of discovery. So, as we close this chapter, I invite you to reflect on today's revelations and prepare for the next steps. We will continue unraveling secrets, questioning established truths, and exploring the mysteries around us. Your participation is essential, not just for the growth of this channel, but for the expansion of our horizon of knowledge. Until the next discovery. And remember, the real power lies in questioning and understanding what is beyond the visible. And before you go, don't miss these 2 videos I've selected especially for you. They're packed with deep knowledge and fascinating discoveries that you'll love. Click on one of them and continue your journey of self-discovery and the pursuit of wisdom with the amazing content our channel has to offer.